We've all been there. You were stopped in a hallway, you received a text, you were forwarded an email, and every single notification feels urgent. You're busy all the time, you're working nights and weekends, and you don't feel like it's ever going to come to an end. It's not because you're bad at your job, it's because no one ever equipped you with the correct system and process in order to manage all of these requests. Let me show you the one decision system that I use every single day that stops all of this before it ever begins. Okay, so this is what I call the communications priority pyramid, and it's simply a triangle right now. But what we're going to do is actually put two lines through it so I can show you the additional sections that we're going to put in here. I call this tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. And at the top, you can tell that tier 1 is a lot smaller than at the bottom where tier 3 starts to expand out. And we'll explain that a little bit more as we go. But the things that I want to point out to you is the level of importance of each tier. And this is where you begin the process of delegating different pieces of work into different areas. So for example, if we go and find the information for tier 1, I call this external events. Anything 500 people or more, and CD stands for Communications Director, which means I am fully part of the creation of any kind of communications work that comes out of tier 1. So what would that look like? Christmas, Easter, Fall Festival, Spring Festival, anything that is going to be going out into the community, we would consider this a tier 1 event. And I usually spend 2 to 5 hours, sometimes 3 to 5 hours on anything that goes into tier 1 because it is going to be the main thing that communicates who we are as a church or as an organization to the community around us. Now, 500 is just a number that works for us and our congregation. It would be different depending on what setting you're at, but 500 is around what we're trying to shoot for right now as far as external communications go. The second tier that I want to point out to you is tier 2. This is what I call internal, where you focus on different internal events like maybe Wednesday night dinners, or recently during the Christmas season, we had an Advent wreath workshop. This was an internal event that we made for our church families. Now, obviously, people from outside were invited to the event as well, but our main marketing and advertising for this event was done internally. I would say anything 100 plus is what we would consider an internal event. It still gets my attention. You see the CD there, but this is when AI starts to get involved. So what does my workflow look like here? Well, normally what I would do is I would start with something like a ChatGPT, Google Gemini, maybe Canva AI, and give it all the information about the event and say, create for me a graphic that I can use and some social media copy that would go along with this event. I let AI start the process of doing a lot of the front end heavy lifting, so that way I can take that graphic or that copy and adjust it a little bit to create something that works for us. So I spend about 30 minutes to an hour on anything that has to do with internal, and that's only because the tiers are getting bigger, which means the requests are getting to be more. So if I was to do anything in tier 2 at a tier 1 level, you can imagine how quick time starts to eat away during the week. Now, let's jump down into tier 3. What do I call tier 3? I call this small group. This is 30 or less people. So your Sunday school classes, your small groups, life groups, community groups that are meeting. And we would also consider this maybe like the youth are having a pool party or something like that. Anything that is 30 people or below is considered a small group or tier 3. You see how big tier 3 is? The requests come in like crazy. And everything in this tier, maybe not everything, 90%, 90 to 95% of everything in here is created with AI. And I only spend about 15 minutes on each individual request in a tier 3 level. Now, imagine you have a myriad of different requests come in on tier 3 and you spend even just tier 2 level the amount of time on it. You are going to be eating away at your hours, and that means you're going to be stuck behind a screen spending time with pixels and not people. We want you to redeem your time so you can get back to the important thing, and that's being with people. And so these 3 tiers are very important for you to begin implementing your requests as they come in. Hey, hold up for just 1 second. If you are wanting access to the full toolkit that goes along with this training, all you have to do is go down to the description below, click that link. It's absolutely free. It comes with my free ebook, workbook pages, posters, all of the above, things that will help you implement AI into your ministry today. This toolkit is exactly what you need to get started, to start seeing results within the next 24 hours. So if you want access to that toolkit, just go to the description below, click that link, and it will be there for you, absolutely free. Now, let's jump back into the training. Not every single request deserves to be a tier 1 or a tier 2. For example, let's say you are having a small group pool party at the end of summer to celebrate everybody going back to school. Well, that's not something that the communications director needs to have their hands in, because more than likely that communication is just going to go out through their small group email, maybe a group me, a text message. It's not going out into the broader community. And so what I want to show you is where your brand guidelines come into play. So I would say tier 1 and tier 2 need to fall under your church branding guidelines. This is anything that your community externally or internally are going to see and understand that it is your church. And I believe every church or organization needs to have some sort of brand guidelines so there is consistency across the board. When people see your organization in the community, they know it belongs to you. There's no question. It's like the whole Nike thing. When you see the swoosh, you don't even need the name Nike. You understand that it belongs to them. You want your organization to do the same. So, branding guidelines for tier 1 and tier 2. Tier 3, because it's all internal with small groups, there's really no need for that. And I have some small groups that are really good at creating graphics on their own. I let them do that. I don't want to step in to the middle of that, because the more I take on with that, the more time that has to go to it. So this allows me to focus on the big things and to really get the marketing consistency out there throughout the community. Now, there is a little bit of a gray area between tier 2 and tier 3 where times get a little weird as far as what is actually an internal event, what's actually an external event. So let me pull up my last slide here. As you can see, I did kind of create this area right here as a gray area, because there are times where, yes, it is a small group event, but it kind of needs a little bit more than a tier 3 treatment. Or maybe it's an internal event, but it really doesn't need as much time as a tier 2. You can knock it down to tier 3. This little area I created for myself and the staff I work with to say, hey, this is just, as things come in, as requests come in, there has to be a little bit of framework where we can push and pull on these boundaries down here. Now, tier 1 stays where it's at. These are the big things. And tier 1, just imagine like a Christmas campaign. You've got marketing packaging that you have to do, videos, social media content. That includes graphics, copy for your captions. And it's not just one social media platform. You might have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. You have all these areas that you need this brand consistency. That's not even talking about videos and scripting and editing. That's why tier 1 has to stay so small, and you have to say, we're only going to do a few things in tier 1, because if we treat tier 2 and 3 like 1, you're never going to have the time, especially if you're doing this by yourself. And when you begin to implement this, people are going to understand why they're getting the AI treatment in comparison to the full-on communications director or senior pastor treatment. And what I did is I sat down with the staff that I work with and actually drew this out for them and let them know, hey, from now on, as requests come in, this is the framework that I'm going to be working inside of. And guess what? It has saved me so much time. And now all that redeemed time goes back to being with people. So I hope you found this framework and this construct very helpful. And I encourage you to go ahead and implement it today. Go before your next staff meeting, figure out exactly how you're going to present this to them, and then say, from now on, as requests come in, I'm going to be filtering it in through this communications priority pyramid. And if you want physical copies of this, I have it like an ebook form. I have a poster printout of this exact graphic that you saw on my screen. And I also have a version of it that doesn't have numbers in it. So if you are a larger church or a smaller church, you can fill in your number request. So your external might not be 500 plus, your external might be 100 plus or 1,000 plus. It allows you to create the framework for your staff. You can present it to them and then give them as a resource this information, so when they're making those requests, they understand where they're going to be falling. And this is all part of a larger communications strategy that I use every single day in the workspace. And if you want to learn more about that communication strategy, I have a communications masterclass that came out at the beginning of the year that you can check out with this video right here, where I break down everything I use in the week. And if you found value in this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and let me know down in the comments what part of this pyramid you're going to start implementing today.